beautiful and so brilliant, and I'm so grateful to be here with you all. I'm really nervous, so I apologize. Okay, so the piece that I am reading from is from a collection of short stories in which I'm interested in using Vietnamese myth and folklore to reimagine the Vietnam War. And in this one in particular, it's a story called Half Fish, Half Wish, in which I'm interested in the idea that even if you cross oceans to escape death and war, you cannot save your children from everything. And by everything here, I mean heartbreak. Except we're not going to have time to get to the heartbreak for the narrator, so it's just a setup. All right. Vietnamese people believe they are descended from the love union of a sea dragon, Dragon Lord Lac, and a mountain fairy, Alco. 100 eggs were the result. When the children were born, 50 of them followed their mother up into the mountains to live, and 50 followed their father down to the sea. They begat the tribes of the Vietnamese people. I wasn't born afraid of the ocean. My father was a sea dragon. In the years before the war, my home was a paper boat where my mother used to come down to the mountain, to the shore, and meet him. When the war ended and we were exiled, a boat made of wood, the boat my mother's wedding ring paid for, took us from the gentle waters of Vietnam East Sea to a place of jagged rocks like broken teeth and waves that could knock someone into darkness. Living in the US, we never went to the beach as kids, except once when I was 6, in the middle of the night, to fish for California grunion. Night was the only time my father could talk about his imprisonment in the concentration camp at the end of the war. At the beach, while examining the fish in this world he didn't recognize, he told me about the time he got to eat fish during the 3 years he was confined. Nothing about using guns or bombs makes people into heroes, he said to me while my mother and sisters were chasing the grunion into huge plastic buckets. They used to hold Costco laundry detergent, and now they would hold midnight fish. Heroes go to prison. They are starved and forgotten, become as filthy as cowards. I saved this man's life in battle, and he called me a hero. Everyone did. And then we were captured, assigned to the same re-education camp. He paused, knelt down to pick up a squirming silver fish. They don't feed you in those camps. Not enough to survive. If you don't get outside support, you don't eat. We ate nothing but rice, a few bowls a week. Some of the rice was rotten. Can you die if you eat rotten rice? I asked, horrified. Yes, my father said. Some of us did die. There was no medicine. The man I saved, he almost died from eating rotten rice. And then one day I found him with a huge fish, fragrant and with garlic and onions and herbs. And he was crying. I thought at first he was so happy to finally be eating, but when he saw me, he pushed the fish towards me. You eat it, he said, his tears falling. I don't want it. Mai brought it. She brought it to say goodbye. She won't wait for me to be released from the camp. My father walked farther out into the waves. I ate that goodbye fish, wet and salty with his tears. I was released from the camp later that day. He never made it out. I felt tears rising in my throat as my father swallowed. He died of pneumonia. Mai married a week before he passed to someone he had known in school. I saved his life, but what was the point? It was only for a year and some months. He was happier in battle before I saved him, before Mai left him. His sadness felt heavy on my shoulders. It was invisible though. I couldn't shrug it off. Suddenly something huge and silver caught my eye in the distance. I left my father's side and ran into the night, my feet pounding and splashing wet at my ankles. The whole shore was full of fish, but I had never seen anything as large as this one. I heard my father yelling, "Duane?" he cried. "Not so far." Then both my parents were calling my name. I wasn't sure how distant the fish was in the darkness, but the silver glint enchanted me, and I kept running. Broken seashells and pebbles bit into my feet, and I lost the sound of my parents to the ocean waves. I reached the shiny silver creature as the moon came out. It wasn't a trick of my imagination. The fish was the biggest grunion on the beach. Its body was half buried, its head moving among the sand as the ocean washed over it. I thought, if I could capture this fish, my father could eat it and forget about the goodbye fish soaked in tears. His sadness could disappear in the darkness here. I reached my hands to cup the fish's glistening face, accidentally freeing it, and it jumped out of its strange burial. I chased it, but my hands were too small to capture it. As it swam, it left a trail of reflective light, like an extended tail, like a soul in the water. For a minute, I forgot about my father's sadness, and I don't know why, but I made a wish. It wasn't even a grand wish. It was something easy, but it was the first thing I had thought of. I wish I could swim, I said. I tried to follow my fish, and the last trace of light its body granted the water. I pushed through the waves until they finally accepted me, embracing me from above. My mouth, my nose, my eyes, my memories. I thought of my father's friend and the tears that had soaked his goodbye fish, and how his beloved Mai had left him to die in a place so terrible my father could only speak of it at night. And then my parents found me. I recalled their angry voices in my dark and sleepy state. "You let her run away," my mother yelled. "You have gotten too complacent here. This is not our home. You have no command of the sea. It is dangerous." "You don't know anything about the sea or what I command," my father responded. "I should have never left the mountain and followed you to the sea," my mother said bitterly. "Give me the fish buckets." "What are you going to do?" my mother asked. He didn't answer, but took the 3 buckets and dumped the fish out into the waves. She looked on in horror as if he were murdering their children. "There are at least 100 of them in there," she protested. "The fish here is poison," he said.